we in the car and he's just like, yo, I'm not afraid. And I'm like, well, what you mean? He's like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to die. He's like, I've come to terms, I come to grips with everything. And he's like, I'm just, I'm not afraid. And it was like I can remember just being quiet after that. Like how can you not be afraid? Like, cause I'm scared for you.
Welcome to the Griefbully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Thank you for joining our weekly discussion around grief, mental health, and your overall personal wellness. The Griefbully podcast will serve as a vehicle to help you navigate life's journey. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with anyone in your life that you think it will help. Let's bully grief together. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Griefbully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Guys, we're back in the building, rocking and rolling for another conversation. And we have on the show today someone that's not a stranger to the Devinwade network. He has his own show, a bigger than life personality. We have GB in the building with us today. What's up?
What's up, man? I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, no problem. And so, GB, Greg, what do you prefer?
GB.
GB, yeah. It would be really hard for me to just all of a sudden adjust and start calling you.
The crazy
Greg.
part is nobody in my family calls me Greg or GB.
Okay, so we got another name. What is it?
Everybody calls me. All my family members call me Naeem.
Is that your middle name?
Yeah, it's my middle name, and so that's like anybody that I grew up with, anybody from North Philly, they all call me Naeem. So people that I went to school with or people that I met later on in my life, they all call me either GB or Greg.
And your son's name is Naeem, right?
My son's name is Naeem. Yeah.
Wow, that's my nephew's middle name actually. So that's so funny because the other day, all right, I'm not trying to showboat guys for real, but I was like, where are all my trophies? Like I played basketball all since I was in 6th grade is the first time I played like organized.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, I have no real history to show that this actually existed. So I'm thinking, so I call my mom and she reaches out or whatever. And so my stepdad has some trophies at his house. And so now I have them back in my possession. So I'm hyped. And I'm sending them to my niece and through text. And she goes to her mom. She goes, Aunt Cole's real name is Nikki? And her mom's like, no, that's a nickname. Why? And then but realizing that my trophies, some of them say Nikki Jones for Nicole, some say Nicole Jones, and none of them say Jean Jones, which is what my first and last name is. So J.Nicole, now you guys know what that stands for. And it's just so funny how like we just have so many names, and it's like, well, those other parts don't exist if you didn't know me then.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. So on the Griefbully podcast, guys, listen, you've been tuning in over the last couple of weeks, or for some people, the last couple of years, because our show is newer here to the Devinwade network, but we've been rocking and rolling for 5 years. And for me, it's been a great ride, as great as it can be when you talk about like grief, loss, mental health, all those things. And the reason why I say that too is because majority of my guests actually have been men of color, and I really did not anticipate that going into the launch of the show, because my experience with a lot of the men in my life has always just been a little more reserved or reluctant, or honestly the opposite, or it's like not really the in between. It's like either I'm kind of keep it close to my chest or I'm a wear it on my sleeve kind of person,
Right.
but not so much of my traumas. One of my guy friends, he said to me before, and I'm curious to kind of get into our conversation here, it wouldn't matter to him to express himself because he truly, genuinely does not feel like people actually really care what him as a black man has to say about his feelings. What's your thoughts?
I think that that's not true. I just think that we don't know how to receive things. Like, so it's like it's not that nobody cares. I just don't think that we are conditioned in like how to be that shoulder to cry on, how to be good listeners, how to be, you know what I mean? Like we kind of we're trained to look at vulnerability as a weakness. So, you know what I mean? A lot of times it'll seem like people don't, come off like they don't care. But, it's just the way that we were all raised. Like we were all raised that you're supposed to keep your trauma inside. You know what I mean? That you're not really supposed to, if you talk about it. I have this thing, me and Slice say it all the time. It's like, if you say something the first time, then okay. But after the second time, I don't want to hear it no more, because what did you do to fix it? You know what I mean? So it's
So
like,
hold on. So that's friend to friend, brother to brother.
mm-hmm,
If you're going through something and
mm-hmm.
you express it to him one time, all right. But if you say it again,
I'm
there's no more mercy. Like you should have did something
yeah,
about it. Wow.
it's like go all right. So what are we doing to fix the problem? So it's like the second time, because after that it's like you just complaining at this point. And that's kind of, it's crazy because that's kind of the way we was raised.
Two is
That stuff we were told from our uncles. You know
wow.
what I mean? So it's like, you get it past the first time. It's like, all right, you get a little bit of time to grieve or to go through whatever. But then afterwards, it's like, all right, so now what? You know what I mean? After that, you just complaining or you just don't want to do nothing about it. So it's like when you got stuff like that, you don't really feel like you ever have a safe place to to kind of unload. You know what I mean? So
No, that's I must say that's one of the most enlightening, I guess, explanations to kind of help us understand what that experience is like when we talk about what black men are going through, because we hear that a lot,
hmm
but I've never understood it that I mean two is a little like if I if I only had the grace or the space or just was kind of trained in a sense,
hmm
groomed, if you will. I feel like groomed always has a like negative thing.
Negative,
Anyway,
yeah.
always kind of like shown or seen that hey, listen, this is the first time, second time, cut it. That's low because I
Yeah.
mean I'm always repeating stuff that's like
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, because it just comes like, from a man, like, two men to each other. It's like, we just not we're not good listeners, like, to be honest with you. Definitely when it comes to listening to each other. It could explain a lot of, a lot of problems that we have in our relationships as well, because we don't really like to listen. We kind of like results. We like solutions. You know what I mean? We don't really like we're problem solvers. So, by nature. So, when you keep bringing me the same problem over and over and over again, it kind of comes across like, yo, you just don't want to fix it.
No, I get that. And I do see how it can be beneficial to an extent to say, like, all right, let's become more solution driven and not just complaining and just, saying things and just crying or whatever. So I get that part. But I'm thinking about this. This is also two guys who are from North Philly, North Philly, right?
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
From North Philly. And so what I'm saying that to say is that anybody who knows or understands the Philadelphia area, then it's a very high crime ridden situation. So for you to go through all the traumas and things that you're experienced with and then just not really have a place where you feel, even within your tightest circle, I get
hmm
it. Maybe you don't want to go talk to a therapist or a preacher or whoever,
Right.
but just like amongst your boys and your uncles and your people to not have that, how is that navigation working when we're talking about people being murdered that you love, people being killed that you love, and then
hmm
now you just can't really talk about it?
you just it's trauma. It turns into trauma, because you keeping all of those things and bottled up inside. Like, I can honestly say myself, like, I'm numb to a lot of things. Like, I really can't cry at funerals. I really can't, like, because you just kind of trained to just be tough. You know what I mean? Like, don't wear your emotions on your sleeve. So, and growing up in a kind of area where you just, you kind of see things happen all the time, you just become numb to it. Like, I think that, like, I started going to therapy actually, a few years ago, and I didn't realize that, you know what I mean? Like, it was hard for me to talk to the therapist because I just wasn't used to, just talking about my feelings. And it made, originally when I first started, it made me feel weak. It made me feel like being vulnerable made me feel less than, because that's kind of the way that that when you grow up, you can't really show no weakness in order to be able to survive in certain spaces.
Yeah. I mean, vulnerability is uncomfortable.
hmm
It's definitely uncomfortable, but the more that we can get closer to not only having those opportunities for ourselves, but fostering those environments for each other. So whether that's being friends or being companions with someone, I think one of those is asking deeper questions, not just questions that are going to solicit a yes no response.
hmm
It's something that I've learned too. Like I just kind of be like, so like because what do you like I don't even really finish sentences
Right.
sometimes on purpose because I just want to give that person like, okay, like keep going. Don't just be like, hey, how you doing today, GB? You good? You're like, yeah, I'm good. Everything's fine.
Right.
it's like, no, but like, what's going on? Like, what's up? So I'm going to start this off. We're going to start this off. We're going to show an example of what this looks like, and you're going to give real answers.
For
So,
sure.
GB, how you feeling today?
I am amazing. I'm happy to be here. I have a lot to talk to the people at home about. I'm sure that you guys have. If you watch Talk Heavy, I'm sure that you guys have. Maybe the word that I'm looking for. You may have a preconceived thing on how you think I really am as a person, and you're probably going to find out that I'm really nothing like that for real.
So we're going to walk into that. So I did ask a question that he could have just said yes or no, but thank you for elaborating. But to go into that, and I'm just going to get right to it.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be doing amazing, all things considered, those who do know you and have watched you and follow, we know that you have recently experienced some what I would consider really difficult times. And obviously, and if you don't know, unfortunately, GB lost his father recently. And so not even just the actual passing, but just over the last couple of months, the last few years, to have to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me to ask you how you're doing, you said, I'm amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
so are you, or
is it? So I'll say this: day to day, you kind of have to, you have to be so that I have a lot of people that depend on me, and it's almost like you don't really get time to grieve almost. So my dad, me and my dad have the same name, and my dad was like he meant a lot to me. He was it's kind of crazy because so like if to kind of backtrack a little bit in my story, like I didn't grow up like in a house with my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like I was I was raised by my mom. You know what I'm saying? I stayed at my grandmom's house down North Philly. And growing up, I didn't, me and my dad didn't have like a super close relationship. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't until like we kind of got close when I became an adult. You know what I mean? But then he got sick, and then when he got sick, he wound up living with me. So it was like a weird thing because it was like, I kind of felt good that I could do that for him, but then it was still all the resentment was kind of still there because it was like, here I am doing for you and taking care of you, and you would never, I had that whole, I was holding on to that whole thing. And then when he got sick, it was like it was tough because he just like kind of deteriorated like right in front of my face. You know what I mean? And it happened like fast. So it was I used to take him to his doctor's appointments all the time. And then once he had like went to the hospital, whatever, and he hid what was wrong. You know what I mean? And me and my sisters, I'm actually the oldest. I have so my mom has children, my dad has children. I'm the oldest, and I'm also the only boy. So I have all sisters.
Wow.
So it's he was taken to the hospital, and then we found out that he had liver cancer. And so the very first time he goes to the hospital, he knew, but we didn't know. And he kind of calls us all up there. The doctors come in or whatever, and they're like, "Yo, he has liver cancer. It's spread to a point where there is no treatment." So they didn't kind of give us a timetable like right then and there, but it was like we knew it was bad. Like you could see, like he had lost so much weight. He didn't really look like himself. And then as like time went on, like it was almost seems like from that day, like actually hearing it, it was like we just started just kind of making arrangements. And I remember being in the car with him. We was coming from one of his doctor's appointments, and it's like I got this memory of him. We in the car, and he's just like, "Yo, I'm not afraid." And I'm like, "Well, what you mean?" He's like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to die." He's like, I've come to terms, I come to grips with everything. And he's like, I'm just, I'm not afraid. And it was like I can remember just being quiet after that. Like how can you not be afraid? Like, cause I'm scared for you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it was like a lot. And then he wound up getting sick again. And this time, they kind of gave us like a timetable.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, listen, maybe 3 months. And at this time, like he was cool. Like he didn't flinch. It just was like, all right, so this will be my last Christmas. This will, so let's just make the best of it. You know what I mean? So, the family, we all got together. We threw like this big Christmas party. It was like kind of in honor of my dad, but it was like for me, it was like so sad. You know what I mean? Because the only thing that kept ringing in my head was, yo, this gonna be my last Christmas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I couldn't get that out of my head.
Like during that time. I know we're going to continue to go forward, but there's a lot of things that you said, and again, like I'm always going to continue to extend my condolences. I never get numb and used to hearing the experiences of my
Hmm.
guests and the people that sit across from me is very tough to hear. Couple things. One, when you said that you were surprised that he wasn't scared, and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, because I'm scared for you.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, were you scared for you?
I
Because
think
it
I
seemed
was.
like you
I think
after
I
that.
was. So I have a fear of like just like the person being in pain more so. It was. I kind of felt like um I was gonna be okay. Um, like physically and all of that, but I had no clue what I was in for emotionally, because most of the time, like I have lost people in my family, but never this a person that was this close, like somebody that that I see every day, that I'm living with, like, you know what I mean. And even as children, it's like to lose a parent. You just lose a piece of yourself. So it's like I looked like my dad. Like my dad played ball, I played ball. We both from the same neighborhood, got the same name. It's like it was like a lot of things. And like during the process, it was a lot of things that was like for the first time ever, everything was like on me. It was like
Mm.
every decision, like, oh, so having to go and pick out the casket, having to go to the church, and having to find a place for the repast, and having to go to the cemetery and pick the grave site. It was like every little thing, and nobody would make a move, like, you know what I mean, kind of without, I had, don't get me wrong, I had some of my cousins that were amazing. My girlfriend was amazing. Like they were people, but it was still like you got the final say. So it's still, everything had to like come across your desk almost. You know what I mean? So it was just, and you didn't have an opportunity to like grieve. And I had one of my younger cousins. He had lost his dad, a few years back, and he was kind of telling me how everything was gonna go. He was like, "Listen, man, the first week you're gonna be so busy. It's like time gonna be flying. You're gonna have to take care of so much business. You ain't even gonna have time to cry."
Mm-hmm.
He was like, and then when everything's said and done, everybody goes back to their life, and you just stuck with all of the grief and everything.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
heavy.
wasn't lying.
It's heavy, and you know what? This is the thing, and so whenever again I have people on the show, like some of their experiences can be similar to mine, but
Hmm.
I just try to let that conversation go. But when I hear ahead of time, okay, like when I found out that your dad was sick, and it was like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
GV's dad has cancer, and we don't know how long it's going to be, and I'm just like, my heart instantly breaks because no two experiences are the same, but I've
Right.
been in those same shoes, literally been in the same, very, very similar experience. And you just don't want people to have to go through that. It's like, even if something, it could be something as small and superficial, frivolous as this. If I knew like you had a vacation plan, let's just say like
Hmm.
around that time, I would be like, oh my God, like everything that
Yeah.
was prior, it's like, that's
Yeah.
just
And the
not.
way that we grew up, it kind of make it worse, because you be so busy trying to be tough. You be so busy trying to keep everything together. And sometimes, man, it's just better to just like let it out. It's like my grandma used to say, yo, it's hard to cry about the same thing twice. You know what I'm saying? So it's like every time you let a little bit out, it's hard. It get harder and harder and harder to get emotional about that. Like maybe that same memory or that same like you're gonna always have moments, but it'd be harder for certain things and certain situations to choke you up after you done had a real good cry about it and you kind of let it out. And it's been working for me, to be honest.
So you've been crying.
A lot, like and it just kind of like just hits you, like you know what I mean, like you just be going about your day, you just you washing dishes or whatever, and then something will just hit you. You know what I mean? Especially songs, because my dad was like he liked music, he liked to dance, and so it's like certain songs that you hear, and it's like man, you know what I mean? It's yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
like you be cool, then you get like 15 minutes of you just sitting down, you can't do nothing, you crying, you sad, but then it's like yo, you gotta try to pull yourself together and try to go on with the rest of your day.
I'm proud of you for that. I mean, that's big to do. Like, there's people who are like, I don't cry. I just can't cry. I don't know how. I'm comfortable. It's familiar. And even if you are, I'm talking about like going through really difficult things. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a very scary thing. But what you said and what your grandmother said, I think are very true. Tears have power. And if we can just get enough courage to get into that and let it happen, especially when you
Mm-hmm.
talk about music and songs and things like that, it can, even songs that, again, it could be like an R&B song, like
Mm-hmm.
about your dad. You're not, obviously it's not on that time, but it's just like now my whole vibe is switched. Like, why do I feel like this after
Yeah.
the Usher concert? Oh my gosh, after the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
obviously everybody streaming the music, so I'm listening to Superstar and all this, to him and Alicia Keys song and all that. Now Alicia Keys music starts coming on. Next thing you know, I'm listening to Love You Like I'll Never See You Again,
Mm-hmm.
washing the dishes. Literally, just happened to me 2 weeks ago. Hysterically crying, just about everything. Like my
Mm-hmm.
dad, I'm just like, what? It's been like 5 years, 6 years, and since you lose people, but it's just something that I say all that to say is you can't really outrun grief, right?
Mm.
And so
That's heavy.
it's going to come out. It can come out in anger. It can come out in, it can even come out in love. It can come out in different forms of expression. So when I encourage people, like when I see that you're allowing yourself to actually mourn and
Mm-hmm.
sit in it when it happens, it's only going to be beneficial to you because you can't be busy enough. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
I felt the difference in myself, like even with recording Talk Heavy, and I couldn't even bring myself to come to the studio. Like I probably didn't come to the studio for like a month. Like I just didn't feel funny. I didn't feel like talking about it. I didn't like honestly. I didn't feel like people feeling sorry for me. Almost, it was like, yo, it's like if I, because normally, I use the studio as kind of like therapy. You know what I mean? It's like you go there, you have a good laugh, you around good people, you around people that love you, and because we have a lot of deep conversations before the show and
Mhm.
after the show.
Mhm.
But I couldn't even bring myself to come to the studio because it was just like, yo, I didn't feel like the same person. And it's interesting that you just said like 5 years later, because that's all people keep telling me. It was like, yo, it doesn't go away. It don't
I
go
know,
away.
and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's true.
Yeah.
Like, it is true. It was years past. I lost my grandmother, and I literally recall it today. Actually, I was at Whole Foods. They don't sponsor the show, but I shouldn't. Whatever. I was at Whole Foods and I was eating, and this older black lady was on. She was like calling people back that had called her cell phone,
Hmm.
and I'm just laughing, and she's like, "Hello, who is this? You called my phone number. Is this about my tax?" What is, like, she, anyway? So she was going on and on. My grandmother passed away in 2016. Now, if this was 2016 or 17, that probably would have made me cry. I would have just got up and left and
Hmm.
even maybe been angry because I found myself being really angry and jealous that people still have that
Yep.
person, whoever I don't have, right?
Yep.
But today, I actually was just laughing, and it reminded me of my grandmom, and it was like, oh man, like I miss her. I used to call her my senior cupcake. I'm like, oh, I miss her so much, like that. And I was able to just continue on what I was doing. That's because I've learned to grieve well and allow myself to trust myself with my emotions, that even if I did cry, I know that my day wasn't going to completely unravel because I've allowed myself to go
Right.
there. But that's what happens. It's just like some people keep it all in, and then, like I said, it becomes angry. They become like whatever, secluded and everything. But one of the things that you said that was so important, I don't want to necessarily skip past that, is you don't feel like yourself anymore. And the reason why I
No.
want to say that is because I think people who are support systems don't fully are not fully aware,
Hmm.
if they haven't experienced something similar, what that's like. It's like I'm just not, I don't know, and it's scary and unfamiliar for me who I am. I don't feel funny, like you said. I don't feel like I want to do whatever was the plan before. I pray that people can work themselves back to that, but that's
Hmm.
just a real thing because your world didn't stop. It's kind of similar to like if someone gets locked up and they're doing time,
Hmm.
and it's like you want to keep calling, or like doing whatever. And it's like,
Right.
I love you and everything, but like I kind of still like this. I still have to go into work or wherever I have to
Hmm.
be, and so it's like their life circumstances didn't change, yours did,
Right.
right? And so I had to look at that though, because there's times where I could feel like a little bit like, hold on, like you gotta give me some grace here, and it's like, but their world didn't change,
Yeah,
right?
I felt like I was being selfish a little bit, like because it was just like I didn't want to really do nothing, and it was like in order to sometimes to do the things we do, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's kind of like a vibe that you gotta be in, like a mindset that you kind of gotta be in to sit down in front of cameras and be entertaining, and you gotta like channel like a kind of energy. So like a lot of times, like I think my first episode back when I came to the studio, when I came in, I think we was like doing pre-production, and I just I looked over the slice and I was like, yo, bro, you're gonna have to carry the energy because I'm just here for, like, you know what I mean. I'm like I'm just here, so I'm not in the house, or I'm just here because I know the show got to kind of go on, type of thing. But my energy, it was like I was a shell of myself, like for real. And like after I left, I didn't even like the episode because I'm like, yo, I know that I know I felt like I shortchanged. You know what I mean? The people, I felt like I shortchanged Dev and Slice. I felt like, I did some, I just wasn't who they expected me to be. Like people, when they watch the show, they expect me to be a certain way. And the crazy part about it is, like when I'm not on the show, I'm kind of more of a reserved person.
Mm-hmm.
Like off the show, like not saying that it's a character, it's a part of my personality. Talk Heavy is just a place where I can just basically I have freedom. I could just you know do whatever, say whatever. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like where it's kind of our therapy.
It is, but this is the thing. Now, so you just said that you feel like they, and trust me, I know those guys. They're not pressuring you to do anything, but like in your
Yeah.
mind, you feel like you were being selfish because the expectation for you and for the audience that follow the show and then watch it, the expectation for you to show up, for one, out of your norm
Hmm.
anyway, just on a regular basis without the grief, the trauma, and everything going on.
Right.
And then now, though, the expectation is only when the circumstances are still the same. And I think there are some things that we can fight through, push through, put
Hmm.
on a good face, but losing your dad and literally watching him die before your eyes, it deserves grace and mercy, not from other people, but for yourself, to yourself. And that's a deep thing because
Yeah.
I'm listening to what you're saying. It's like, I got a lot of people to be strong for, I have to do this and like the expectation and to do that. But at the end of the day, like that's a real experience to go through. And it was still so soon. And you've been grieving all along because you can grieve the living, someone who's
Hmm.
still alive. But obviously that's kind of like coming down the road.
It's hard, like because even in my adult life, you know what I'm saying, I still lack some of the tools to kind of deal with grief. You know what I mean? Like the way that I grew up, like I kind of, really, like I didn't have like, much of a childhood, like growing up. Like I grew up very, very unique and very different. And I know a lot of people that grow up in the hood. Everybody say, "Oh, well, the way I grew up was like different,
Hmm.
different." So like I give you an example. Like at 11 years old, like I had a full-time job. Like I worked at I was an auto mechanic. My step pop, he had a shop. And my mom was in my earlier years, me and my mom was like real close.
Hmm.
And then drugs hit,
Yeah.
and kind of took a toll on everybody. So I wound up at my grandmom's house. and like I didn't have anything, like, you know what I mean. So my stepdad, his shop was directly across the street, so he used to see me, like, you know what I mean, like my clothes wasn't up to par or whatever. So he's like, look, man, you know, after school, come to work, and you know I'll pay you. And I remember him taking me to buy me school clothes when Franklin Mills Mall like
Oh
first
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like when it first opened, like, you know what I'm saying. I remember going up there and them buying me school clothes, and like basically just getting me right. So at 11 years old, I got a full time job. By 13, like my mom had moved away to North Carolina to kind of get herself together.
Hmm.
My dad is like, I see my dad kind of here and there. So at this time, it's like I'm 13, but I'm kind of like an adult. I ain't had nobody to say, "Yo, get up, go to school." Yo, be in the house at this time. If I wanted to come in at 3 in the morning, I come in at 3 in the morning. Um, so I always kind of lived like an adult. I always had a thing of like, asking people for help. I always had to find a way to kind of get it myself, because as a child, that's that was kind of the living. By the time I was 15, what I'm saying, I was driving to school in the 10th grade. I had an apartment in the 10th grade. You know what I'm saying? So it like anybody who went to Strawberry Mansion, they'll tell you, they be at the live shows, they'll tell you they remember the parties at my house when we was kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could literally wake up and just say, yo, I ain't going to school today. I went to school, still got all A's and B's. Just a matter, for me, it was more something I wanted to prove to my parents. Like it was basically it put a battery on my back. I kind of wanted to show them, like, look who I became. Kind of without y'all being there, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what drove me. Like, yo, I did it all on my own. So the only thing about that is honing those skills. You also aren't prepared to deal with a lot of things emotionally, because you never had the tools. You never had nobody to learn them from. So I'm getting a lot of financial things done, but emotionally, I'm broken for real. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it was just rough. And then I had when I had my children, the crazy part was, I raised my first two sons, my oldest two sons, Naz and Naeem. Like, I was a single parent. So I raised them myself. Like, their mom wasn't around.
Mm.
So I had a son that was 1 year old, and I got my other son when he was 3 months. So I had two babies in Pampers.
And how old were you?
I was 21
Okay.
with two. I was 21 with two kids. So I had, you know what I mean. Now it's like just something basic. Like, it's summertime. Everybody's going to the park to run ball. I can't go. Like, I can't go outside. I'm going taking my kids to daycare. I'm changing Pampers. I'm boiling milk, making Similac, and I'm doing it by myself, and I don't really know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? But so I say that to say, like, it was never. It was like always grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up, grow up. So it's like the kid in those situations, like, had to just chill. So the way that this ties in is, I've always felt like I always have a thing where I feel like somebody's dependent on me, and I gotta show up. You know what I mean? So slicing Dev and everybody, it was like, no, it was never no pressure to come. It's like, yo, bro, take your time, take your time. But it's just a part of me. I felt like, yo, I'm kind of not taking care of my responsibilities. I'm kind of not, I'm just kind of like, we all worked hard to kind of build something, and it's like, something happened, because it was like, Dev lost his brother, and even after Dev lost his brother, in my opinion, I felt like he came back too fast. I felt like, and then I found myself doing the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I watched him, and I'm like, yo, bro, listen, don't worry about the show. The same way they was telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week it's like, nah, come on, we just in there, and you just, you trying to
Mm-hmm.
get back to doing things normal. But and I found myself after telling him that I found myself doing the exact same thing.
Man, you said so much. And for those who follow the Griefbully, I'm rarely like speechless in a sense. But when you really sit back and if you're listening, like if you really listening to what you're saying, that's so real. It's so much that we will unpack. I mean, just on the fact that you're being there for everybody else. You feel like you're being there for yourself because you're young, but you have to be an adult, so you got to make all these things. But you're really not being there for yourself in the most important ways, which is emotionally, because you don't have the skill set to do that. Then you have two young sons that now you're trying to do the same thing for with the same depletion as far as like not having the skill sets and the things that you're doing, but you're doing it. And so I'm giving you obviously a lot of credit for doing that, but that's just, it speaks so much to just like who we are and how we navigate life in the journey. And when you don't know all that about a person, you don't really know them. So when we're like, oh, no, I know GP, that's my dude, or I know this person,
Man.
like, no, like we don't really
jokes,
know.
All those jokes that's on Talk Heavy, they all real. Like the way, like Slice used to come down to like visit like on the weekends and stuff. So we grew up in this house. My mom's side, the family last name is Porter, right? So like in New Jack City, they used to call the building the Carter, right? They used to call it, so we called our house the Porter because it was always so many people. And I honestly say on paper, I'm supposed to be crazy on paper. So the way so in the house, I give you just a rundown of some things that's going on in the house, right? So I have in there, I have my aunts. I have two of my aunts that are living there with all of their children, right? I have my cousin who's my oldest cousin. He's deaf, right? He lives there. My grandmother lives there. I have three uncles that are homosexuals, right? They not only do they live there with their boyfriends.
That's another 6.
Right. Then it's but the children. So my one aunt has 5 children. My other aunt has 4 children. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on.
There's one house.
This is one house. It's all of these people living in this one house. So it's like growing up, going from it being with just me and my mom, being the only child, to that was like I was spoiled. So it's almost like the scene from Get Rich or Die Trying when 50 Cent is with his mom and then he got everything, and then his mom dies and he has to move to his grandmom's house, and now everything that was like real life. So going from all of that to kind of being where I'm at right now, like just in a mental space, it's like all like being able to come on our podcast or having a show where we could kind of make light of these situations. But growing up, like I'm really supposed to be crazy.
I never said you weren't. No, I'm just kidding. No. I'm kidding. But no, that really is a lot. And that's the thing, though. So in a lot of ways, you said that you don't have like the skills and all those things. But in a lot of ways, you kind of do, to an extent that you've made it this far. And those same skills are going to help you get through. You just want to get through in a healthier way this next chapter, as far as like the grieving in the morning and all of that. But resilience by definition is the ability to cope. And I think that you kind of have a little bit of a similar trait that I have, where my resiliency has also been one of my biggest flaws. So a lot of people can say like, oh man, you're resilient. Like you just get through things. Like GB, man, like how did you get through a house with 1 million people? Mom not there, dad not there, living in the area that you lived in, all these things, a young parent. Now you by yourself, like so much going on. And then again, now you get closer with your dad. He passes away. Like it's a lot that has to go through that. But in that same vein, with the ability to cope well and just kind of move through life, we also have to be able to navigate internally, like what's going on with me. Like I don't feel okay.
That's my biggest weakness.
Yeah, and be our own best advocate. But like it's just not. I feel uncomfortable with it too, even as a woman.
My girlfriend always says that you know how to help other people, but you don't know how to help yourself.
Hmm.
You're not real good at. And the crazy part is, it doesn't feel as good when, like,
So helping yourself doesn't feel as
no,
good as
it doesn't.
others.
No, it doesn't feel as good
I
to me
agree.
as helping other people. So I'm not good at it. I don't put the work in to kind of help myself. I'm always geared more towards like people pleasing almost. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say I don't really have the tools. You know what I mean? Because I put myself second in a lot of situations where, I'm not gonna say that I don't love myself, because I do, but it's just in certain situations where I probably should come first. I don't know how to put myself first.
Man, we're literally like almost the same person. Because people are like, how are you a people pleaser when you're like, I'm like more outspoken and things
Mm,
like that? I'm like, no, trust me. There's plenty of situations where I definitely put myself second, and sometimes it could even just mean that I'm not gonna have conflict with somebody.
mm-hmm,
So like if it's like
mm,
I'm just
yeah, yeah,
and it's like ugh. But in some situations, like say if it's at work or like somewhere else, like no, like I'm gonna speak up. No, this I don't like the way this is going. That's happening.
right.
But when it's like a personal thing, and I do think it has to do with traumas and living in certain situations
It
that we've
does.
been through. Listen, I went to therapy the other day. I haven't been there in like 2 years, maybe even a little bit more. But I reached out to my therapist because I'm like, listen, I'm kind of unraveling, excuse me. I don't know. I just don't feel that great. And she's like, well, why are you here? Like asking me like, why are you back? Why are you
Mm-hmm,
here? And I'm like, I need to learn me more. I don't think I really actually know, but I'm
that's
like, how many times do we can talk openly about our trauma and things we've been through, but like that connection really on like who that's made me become or maybe who that's made you become and why. I just need to explore it a little bit deeper because I'm tired of it. I do want to feel more peace, more joy, and not as much people pleasing and be my own better advocate when it comes to myself emotionally because I'm just like you. I just want to make sure and help and help and help. One thing my therapist did say to me before along the journey, and I guess is to an extent about codependency, I did have a lot of turmoil at times and a
mm-hmm,
lot of things that were out of my control as far as like domestic violence and just like the lack of stability and where things were.
mm-hmm.
Maybe I overcompensate and try to like control the situation because I know that I can get it done and I know that I can help you and make that better. So I want to kind of control your happiness or control whatever it is. But for myself,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, but maybe we do that because we have made it through and maybe we don't know that other people have that same ability. I don't know. I don't be thinking that deeply about it when it happens though. I'm just like, if you need me, I want to go. If I
Yep.
need me,
Yeah, like saying, like, it's hard. It's like hard when you know you can get something done,
mhm.
right? And it's maybe something that may be harder for another person. It's harder. It's hard to just not to do it. Is like saying no is basically a, what they say is a like, it's a talent that I don't possess.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't possess it. I feel like when it comes to myself personally, the biggest quality that I am good with myself is surviving. So I know when it comes to myself, I know how to survive. But I never really try to give myself the world though. But I'll break my neck to try to give it to other people. When
Yo,
it
I
comes
feel like
to
I'm about
me,
to start crying.
yo,
I'm not lying. I feel like I'm about to start crying. Like I didn't even mean to cut you off. I really feel like I'm about to start crying because like simple things. Like I would buy you $100 pair of sneakers.
mm-hmm,
I'm not buying me $100 pair of sneakers. It's weird. I've gotten better with it, but like,
mm-hmm,
or let's say I would, but I'll think about it.
mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, I don't know. But like, if it was for someone else, like a gift or like to do something, just something small like that, it's
Hmm.
like,
It doesn't feel as good.
it's like,
I mean, to me personally, it doesn't feel as good. It's like, to buy something for somebody else feels way better than buying it for myself. And I don't, I don't know why it's like that.
I feel like I
It just
deserve
is.
nice things. Do you feel like you deserve
I mean,
treatments and things?
yeah, I mean, I buy myself
No, I
nice
know, I
things,
know. I
but
see. I mean, look,
I feel like
peep the glasses. We know.
I feel like I buy other people nicer things.
Yeah.
And I think that I probably would think about myself last.
But the survival part of it, I think, is a big thing that a lot of us that are listening to this show and just tuning into this kind of content, we've survived. We've been surviving, but I think like you said, you love yourself. I love myself for sure. I don't think I know myself well enough to know what that version of me or that part of me needs. So I don't give it because I don't even know what you're really deficient in. I just know that you're showing up this way, meaning myself showing up this way. And it's like, why does that matter? Like people's opinions of me and just like being in good graces and all that stuff, like it has too much power over me. I don't like that. So I literally telling my therapist, I'm like, I need to be better for me. This isn't about anybody else in this season. It's like, I got to be better for me. I'm going through a lot. Same thing. I lost. And that's why I think like losing my grandmother was tough, because she was like a stability and like a safe haven in the midst of that chaos. Did you like have anything like that happen to you? Like where like you had an anchor at some point and then you anchor person or something and then you like lost that? Or is it just...
So yeah, so growing up, my stepdad,
You did say that.
basically he saved my life. To be honest with you, by giving me a job and like teaching me a lot of life lessons. Because coincidentally, he was the first man that I ever seen raise his child by himself. Right, I had never even heard of it. I didn't know it was a thing, and seeing him raised my stepbrother by himself as a single parent with no help from nobody kind of let me know that I could do it. Right. The only the only thing, and I think I just told him this maybe over the past year, just recently. Like I used to have resentment because he lived like nice, like he lived in a very very nice part of the city, right? So I would go to school, I would come to work. And then, while I was at work, you know what I mean? He always made sure I had money. He always but then it was like afterwards, he would leave and go home to his life. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still in hell at the end of the day. So it would be like, yeah, I always grew up with this thing where it just was like, yo, nobody wants to save me. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, I'm just down here. I'm fending for myself. I don't got no parents. I got, I have I'm surrounded by adults, but life is lifing. You know what I mean? Like my aunts, they got their children, and my uncles is doing their thing. My grandmom's old, so it's kind of like you kind of like on your own. You figure it out. Like growing up in a house with that many people, it's like me and Slice. We talk about it all the time. I'm like, bro, I don't understand like how I had days when I was hungry. How was I hungry and there was this many people in the house? Like how did I how did I not have these certain things?
Yeah, necessities, the bare minimum.
But people, you can't blame people for like the tools that they didn't have. Like they were in survival mode too. And when you're in your 20s, your 30s, you don't think about that. You just hold on to the resentment. But as you get older, you kind of gotta let some of that stuff go. Like you gotta give people grace, and you don't know where they were at that time, what they was going through, and in a way, I kind of needed some of those things to happen to kind of make me make me the person that I am. Because if those things don't happen, then maybe I don't become a football coach. You know what I mean? If those things don't happen that way, maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not the father that I am. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not GB on Talk Heavy. Maybe I'm, so maybe some of those things had to happen then for me to be who I am now.
I just want to, I don't know if challenge that is a good thing, but I want to just dive a little bit deeper into that just because I feel like we all say that a lot. Like a lot. I say it too. Like, listen, whatever, everything I went through, it made me who I am, whether that's good or bad. It just kind of like is what it is. But have you ever thought about maybe there was a possibility that a better version of ourselves would have been if those things didn't happen? So like, I was in therapy before many years ago, and the therapist, I was telling him about a scenario when he was like, well, let's go through some imagery. Let's imagine, we're sitting around a table and, your parents are here and you tell them this. like how would you have wanted them to respond, and let's see how that like makes you feel. And I was looking at him like, that, why? I'm like, I literally says, I was like, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen that way. So why are we going to sit here? I don't want to play this game. And then like I really was like, all right, you know what? Let me try to be open to this weirdness. That's how I was feeling it. He was kind of like giving weird vibes, but he asked me to do this. And it was a situation where I would have wanted my parents to say, hey, I don't really understand this, but I'm going to hold your hand and let's walk through it together, because it appears that you also don't understand it, and we're going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. I never even considered in my life that would have even have been a potential answer, but thinking about how I would have felt, it did feel good. Mm-hmm. Like that would have eliminated so much. Not that other things couldn't have happened, but just that one scenario. So I was just curious to ask you, like, we say like, oh, I went through all this and this and this, but like there are people who actually never went through any of that. There are some people who just, that is not their experience, and they're still good people, because I don't know that we always need to have had this trauma and like these problems to make us grittier or whatever. I don't know. I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I also say that, but I don't know. What's your thought?
I've had like, so a lot of the accomplishments that I am proud of in my life. I think I connect directly to the way that I grew up. Like, I don't think that maybe if I had a better relationship with my parents, maybe I don't have children. You know what I mean? Maybe a better version of myself might have made different decisions. So I do know that I was a football coach for 15 years. The way that I was able to connect with my players was because we shared a lot of the same stories. We came from the same places. I understood what they was going through without them having to tell me. So I never even playing football ever, and being able to accomplish the things, 20 championships, national championships, ESPN, being able to take over, 200 kids to Disney, putting them on their first plane, like all of these accomplishments. My only secret was I'm just here for them to be the person that I needed. And that took me a long way. I've never put a helmet on. I don't know what it feels like. I don't, you know what I mean? I've never got out there, tackled anybody, but my children believe in me more than yours do. I could just make them go harder, because it's more like a family thing. It's more like, yo, listen, he was he made sure that I had lunch money. He made sure that, I had a place to go when, we got, me and my mom was staying in a shelter. We were able to come to his house. So it was like all of these things. And I can't see myself not being there, for like I said, that's my being there for other people is kind of my, my thing. So yeah. That's kind of, I kind of directly tie it into, how I grew up. I will say this. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
My therapist asked me this like a few years ago, and they were like, if you could take all the people away, right? Take all of the people and the relationships, what makes you happy? If you couldn't name a person, if it had nothing to do with any other people, do you know what makes you happy?
No, my happiness definitely is tied with other people.
Yep.
Because it would just be, again, like, well, when I do this, which is something generally for someone else, or, I mean, because even you think about basketball, like that, playing basketball probably is one of the happiest times of my life, just because it was something that I was exceptionally well at, and it was just like a different thing. But also, if I was an excellent basketball player in an empty gym, I'm just an excellent basketball player. It doesn't really make me that happy if nobody's watching. It'd be like, yo, you was killing them last night. So even the one thing that I would normally probably say, like, hey, that makes me internally happy, I love it, is my first love, like for real, now that you're challenging me, I'm thinking about that. That still though is tied to other people and the praise.
It challenged me too. That's why I asked. Because if you was in the gym by yourself and you hit 10 threes and nobody around to see it, you like just the way that it makes you feel to leave the gym, just that, it doesn't feel as good as hitting 2 threes with a gym full of people. So it was basically a like an exercise that kind of challenged me to figure out, like, what makes you happy. Like, you have to, if your happiness, you can't control other people, and other people are predictable. So 100% of your happiness can't be tied up into other people. You have to kind of get a grasp or understanding of the things that make you happen outside of other people. Like, you have, like, what do you internalize? What types of things make you happy internally? And it was hard for me to
Have
answer.
you progressed since that conversation to get any answer?
I
Because
haven't.
let us know the secret,
I
because I don't
haven't.
know.
I haven't. Now,
I
I
don't
asked
know.
you because I didn't have an answer, and to this day, I'm in my 40s and I'm still trying to figure out, like, what I like. The things that I like to do, the things that I like that make me happy, and every single thing that I ever could think of, it had to do with doing this with my girlfriend, going here with my kids. Don't you know what I mean? It's always
Something.
inclusive with somebody else's, you
Yeah.
know.
And if it is something, it's surface, right? So like I enjoy watching comedy.
Hmm.
So like if I was just home watching Netflix comedy, just like laughing, like
Hmm.
yeah, that's temporarily. But like on like a real like, hey, like this about life really makes me happy. It's generally seeing my people good. That's like the biggest thing. Like honestly, there was a
Hmm.
thing in church where the pastor recently said it was like a coming up like Miracle Sunday was coming up or something. And it's just kind of making me feel funny saying that. Anyway, but yeah, miracles, Miracle Sunday, where like you write on the paper like thing like you want to God to do, like a miracle, like show up. And I wrote what I wrote on there
Hmm.
was about somebody else. It literally was about my family. It wasn't me. It was about someone in my family and just something that I wanted to happen for them
Hmm.
because I want God to do it because if I had the resources, I would do it.
Hmm.
And I can't. So instead of saying like I mean like I need miracles. I need them, but in that moment I didn't even consider what do I need God to bless in my life? It was just
Hmm.
like, no, I know that I need this one big blessing to happen. And it's just, I don't know.
But if somebody said to you, your happiness is wrapped up in other people, that sounds crazy. When somebody puts it to you direct like that, it's like, all of your happiness is wrapped up in your relationships with other people, but you don't really know what makes you happy. Like, when it kind of sounds crazy, but it's real life for most of us. You don't really have time to figure out, a lot about yourself. You know more about other people than you know about yourself internally, because you don't, you just existing as yourself.
It's facts. And you know what? Just like we start to wind up here, I think what makes that even scarier, that realization, is that I'm a newer mom. So,
Mm.
like, I feel as though I'm only want to get further from finding what genuinely is just going to make me happy because right now my answers would be my daughter. Like, everything about that, it definitely brings me so much joy and happiness every single day. So, again, it's just further tied to another person being a better person for her. Like everything is just like so consumed now. So I feel like if I don't start to learn myself more and be more intentional with that, like trying to move through the grief, the loss, the sorrow, because like I said, it's just going to continue to be with us. We need that. I think
Yeah.
we need that. And I'm okay with spending time by myself. I will go out to eat by myself. I do it like frequently. People feel weird about that. I'm like, no, I'm actually gonna go. I just did it today. I just told you I was at Whole Foods. Like I'll just go
Mm-hmm.
sit down, eat. So I'm okay with my own company. I'm okay with spending time by myself. I like all those things, but genuinely like what makes me happy and putting myself before people, it does feel selfish and it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I don't even really think about first. And I think we have to do that. And the reason why too, I think your grief needs space as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to challenge you with that because it needs that space because it is a real thing. Like you said, someone in your everyday to lose that person and then the parts of you that you lost as well, that needs time to explore on top of everything. as we leave out of here, I'll tell you that grief will meet you where you are. It's not going to meet you where you want it to be. It's not going to meet you when it's convenient. So whatever work we haven't done in our lives up until that point, whatever chaos is still going on, whatever issues we're still dealing with our, as it pertains to our mental and emotional health, this is only going to just 10 exit or 20 exit or 50 million exit, whatever it is. Right. And so that's why it's important for us to bring that outside of our bodies and give our stories legs and our issues or whatever, because it's going to be there. I don't want to keep compiling. I want to work through it. And I'm a testament. I'm going to tell you, if you are intentional with it, the pain will always be there. But the crisis side of it has the opportunity to subside with intentionality. People who use their time to heal give themselves a better opportunity to heal. Time's going to pass regardless. So what we do with it is totally up to us. So being intentional, not making excuses, is the reality. Yeah, life as we know it is not the same anymore. Doesn't mean that we can't get to a place where it's better or it feels a little better, less heavy, less burden. But if you're just going to say, like, I mean, I'm just depressed, I'm just sad, I'm just hurt. And this is the thing, because there are people who have mental illness that's different than your mental health. So a lot of things aren't as easy to navigate, but there are tools, there are resources, and we need to tap into those things, whatever that is for yourself, because you deserve it, right? Like life's going to keep life. Sure. And so I have to ask you before we get out of here, if you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
Black.
Okay.
I don't know. Like when I think of sad things, I think of dark things. I think of like gloomy days. I think of, the dark room. Like me and Slice. Black is actually my favorite color, by the way. That's crazy. Me and Slice have this thing that we call the dark room, actually, and it's like when we were teenagers, we kind of coined the term, and it's like every time you're going through something in your life, as long as there's people around, you can always kind of fake it. But then when you get in that dark room by yourself and nobody else is around and it's just you and your thoughts, that's kind of when you go through the most grief. That's kind of where you work. If you can sit in there and work through your problems, when you walk out that door, when you walk out the dark room, you always come out stronger. So it would be black.
It would be black. Listen, that was great. And I don't know, were we in the dark room over the last hour? I don't know. Would that be a definition of it?
No,
we were in like the gray room.
Because we in here together. So, you know
okay,
what I mean?
Okay, so it's only by yourself.
Dark room is by yourself.
Got
right?
You, by
you
yourself.
You go through a breakup or you lose somebody or you go and you around your family, your mind is kind of taken off of it. But when you get home by yourself and you in the room and you laying there, you just looking at the ceiling with nothing but your thoughts, that's the dark room.
Okay, so we want to try to stay out the dark room if we can, but you might need to go in there. And on an episode where we were talking to Slice and he talked about
that cry out.
Swinging in the living room, I'm like, bro, you're like Boys in the Hood. That was crazy. That's another thing. But yeah, listen, guys, thank you for tuning in. Like, drop us comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. Share your love with us. We're going to keep building, having these conversations, because it is important to have humor, to have entertainment, and definitely make sure y'all are supporting the Talk Heavy podcast right here on the Devinwade Network. But we also got to have room for these conversations. Like I said, grief's going to take up the space. The sorrow is going to come. Life's going to be life, but we are stronger together. Remember, you are not alone. Where can people follow you if they're not following you? Ready?
Y'all can follow me on Instagram, G_winner. On Facebook, I got a lot of followers over there. My name is Greg Bonner over there. You can follow the Talk Heavy page over there. I'm not really big on Twitter like that, but make sure you can, a lot of the things that I'm doing are on the Devinwade Network. You can go to YouTube. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. Listen, I always want to say thank you, though, because it's not easy. You just come on, open up, talk about your experiences. And in true codependency, we don't really put ourselves first fashion. We're going to put ourselves out here to help you too, hopefully, guys. Listen, if you're not following me already, I don't know what you're doing. Go follow me over on Instagram right now at I_am_J.Nicole. Guys, so next time, you already know, love a light. Peace.